Gen 5 is when Mamoswine was at the peak of its power. In Mamoswine's debut game, Gen 4, it was a decent choice, but without a good ice stab option and some pretty poor choices for abilities, it hadn't quite reached its full potential yet. But in Gen 5, Mamoswine received two significant buffs. The excellent new ability Thick Fat, which reduces damage taken from fire and ice type attacks, and the new move Icicle Crash, a much needed form of physical ice stab which has a powerful 30% flinch chance. With these new tools, Mamoswine became one of the most feared wall breakers in Gen 5 OU. Ice and ground is an incredible offensive type combination, and as far as offensive ice types go, Mamoswine isn't that bad defensively either. Unlike other ice types, Mamoswine is neutral to rock, meaning it takes less from stealth rock damage. Thanks to Thick Fat, it's effectively neutral to fire too. Mamoswine overcomes many of the common pitfalls of ice types. I would even say that it's the most well-designed offensive ice type of all time. Most offensive ice types are all offense and no defense. Ice-type Pokemon naturally skew themselves towards this because of how bad they are defensively. But Mamoswine breaks the curse as an Ice-type bulky wall breaker, and one of the most unique offensive Pokemon in any OU format. Let's take a look at the advantages of Mamoswine in Gen 5 OU, and why it fits so well into this metagame. Like this video and subscribe to help us acquire funding for the medical expenses of Iron Chugulus, who has been severely injured following his defeat against Iron Mugulus in the most popular boxing event in human history. Thank you. Mamoswine's stab combination of Icicle Crash and Earthquake are extremely threatening to the majority of Gen 5 OU, but what really brings everything together for Mamoswine is Ice Shard. This priority option allows Mamoswine to overcome its below average speed and pose a serious threat to a lot of fast, ice-weak Pokemon. In Gen 5 there is a team archetype called Dragmag, with a very simple and kind of silly premise. Fairy type did not exist yet in this generation, and the only type that resisted Dragon was Steel. So, what if you were to use Magnezone, who can trap and eliminate Steel types, and then just use 5 powerful offensive Dragon types? If their only Dragon resistance is now eliminated, what can they do against all of your Dragon types? Stacking too many Pokemon of the same type on one team is usually a terrible idea, but Dragon types are so powerful alongside Magnezone that this strategy is actually a lot better than it sounds. It has its issues, but if you're not prepared for a Dragmag team, it can really tear you apart. A lot of hyper offense teams these days have moved away from this all-in approach, as it has too many defensive flaws. But the combination of Magnezone and 2 or 3 offensive Dragon types is still something you do see. Mamoswine is one of the best Pokemon you can use to improve your matchup against these powerful offensive dragons. Garchomp and Dragonite are both ×4 weak to ice and can be KO'd easily by Ice Shard. Latios is the best Pokemon in all of Gen 5 and the most ubiquitous offensive dragon type in the format. Mamoswine can deal impressive damage to Latios with Ice Shard, with a damage roll of 68 to 81% if it's holding the Never Melt Ice item. If Latios is just a little bit chipped from Stealth Rock or Sand damage, it can find itself in serious danger against Mamoswine. Mamoswine's Ice Shard threatens more than just dragon types too. Thundurus Therian is one of the most powerful Pokemon in the format and a staple on rain teams. Mamoswine makes it much more dangerous for them to use Thunder, their most powerful move, as it's completely immune, and if Mamoswine gets an entry point, it's now threatening Ice Shard. Landorus Therian is a very popular ground type and Choice Scarf pivot who is also ×4 weak to ice. Every time you get Mamoswine in against a Pokemon weak to Ice Shard, you're creating a mind game. A common response to Mamoswine is to switch out to an Ice Resist, hopefully one that's faster and can threaten Mamoswine back. But what if Mamoswine instead uses Substitute, predicting this? With Substitute, you give yourself a buffer against whatever Pokemon the enemy sends in, and you can respond accordingly. Most Pokemon that would switch in against Ice Shard are going to take a lot from Stab Earthquake. Mamoswine can be really awkward to play around and force you into these mind game situations where you have no choice but to take massive damage. The fact that both of Mamoswine's stab moves of choice, Icicle Crash and Earthquake, don't make physical contact is also really significant. Ferrothorn is one of the most popular Pokemon in Gen 5 who can wear down physical attackers with the Iron Barbs ability. Rocky Helmet is also used pretty often on Skarmory for a similar purpose, but Mamoswine will completely ignore these chip damage effects since none of its moves are making physical contact. Ferrothorn and Skarmory are pretty effective against most physical attackers, but Mamoswine causes them a lot of trouble with its powerful neutral damage. Mamoswine is one of the few Pokemon in this format that matches up well against every single popular archetype. Rain teams commonly use Thundurus Therian, who Mamoswine can take advantage of, and common defensive cores on Rain teams really struggle switching in against Mamoswine once it's in an advantageous position. Sand teams use even more ground and ice weak Pokemon than Rain teams do, and weatherless offense teams hate Mamoswine with all of their dragon types and fast, frail offensive threats. The one Pokemon that does make Mamoswine's life a little difficult is Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash is immune to Earthquake, resists ice, and can KO Mamoswine with Hydro Pump. But even this seemingly poor matchup can be overcome by Mamoswine. Substitute can shield you from Will-O-Wisp, and also give you a chance to dodge Hydro Pump. And if you substitute as they switch into Rotom defensively, you're actually not in a bad spot. Since Icicle Crash has a 30% flinch chance and Hydro Pump has a 20% miss chance, they actually have a pretty low chance of connecting with Hydro Pump. If Sandstorm is up to deny their leftovers healing, you can sometimes win this 1v1 or at least chip their Rotom Wash significantly. Gen 5 OU can be a famously matchup dependent metagame. There's a bit of a rock paper scissors between Rain, Sand, and Hyper Offense. Some offensive threats are just so powerful that they can win extremely easily in a positive matchup. Mamoswine is my favorite Pokemon to use in Gen 5 OU, because I think it evens the playing field a little bit. Mamoswine is an effective threat in every single matchup. This Pokemon is a little bit difficult to get on the field and can be vulnerable to hazards. It's also a bit prediction reliant, but that's what I like about it. Getting your Mamoswine into an advantageous position where it can start posing a threat isn't automatic or easy, and it's not fast enough to threaten literally everything without any risk. Mamoswine has some of the greatest defensive tools in Gen 5 OU, but to take advantage of them, you have to work for it. Having that ability to outplay your opponent and overcome matchups that would otherwise be difficult is a rare quality in this metagame. Mamoswine is commonly used in high-level tournament games by skilled players for this reason, and when Mamoswine is present in a game, that game often becomes way more exciting and interesting. Unfortunately, Mamoswine's viability fell off from Gen 6 onwards, with the metagame drastically shifting following the changes to weather mechanics, and general power creep in the introduction of new threats over the years. When offensive ice types rise to the top in competitive singles, they're usually really stupid and one-dimensional Pokemon. Mamoswine really stands out as a rare example of a well-designed offensive ice type that once thrived in OU. Hopefully in the future we'll see more ice types with qualities like Mamoswine. Thank you to all the Mamoswine superfans who voted for this video topic out of these options. I didn't realize there were so many fellow Mammoth appreciators out there. I'll be doing these polls more often now. It's nice to get some feedback from you, the viewer, about what topics are interesting, and sometimes it surprises me, in a good way. Thank you to the patrons for your continued support, and thank you to everyone who has donated to my Gen 3 OU tournament, ADV Revival. The prize pool is already over 2,400 USD. Thanks to all of you. Sign-ups are now closed, but stay tuned to the upcoming commentary and analysis of tournament games.
Whoa! KO by one hit! It's scattered Spike!
The money got different.